to the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast.
Okay, welcome back. It's the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast. This is episode 24. Thanks for dropping in with us. Once again, we had another massive week in the Warzone. Pieces shifting and sliding and fitting into each other's puzzles. How was your week in the Warzone, Cowboy?
Yeah, hello everyone. It was good. You know, you're right. It seems like every fucking week things are changing so much. It's like from week to week, it's like a totally different game in a lot of ways. Some ways it's the exact same game, literally. But you know what I'm saying? So many big changes. My week was good. I didn't play as much as I wanted to. I had a lot of work this week, but I was, scrapping into the Warzone and getting my ass kicked, which wasn't helping my mood. Been getting killed a lot lately, and it's starting to change a little bit. We'll probably dive deeper into this, but I usually get really frustrated when I get killed, and I don't understand how. Now I'm just saying, like, what? Like, I don't even see people. It's just coming out of nowhere. I'm just getting destroyed again. How was your week?
My week was good. You sound a bit lost there. Is it you're feeling through the darkness still? Haven't really found your way, tumbling down the old holes, rabbit holes?
Yeah, I'm just tumbling down holes. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I can't find a secondary. I'm starting to question if I should be sniping. I don't have the AMAX leveled up, so I don't know what to do, dude. I don't know what to do. You've got me on this mission to chase the AK-47, which frankly has been shitty. I don't like the gun. But I'm not quite leveled up yet, so who knows? I don't know what a couple extra levels will do for me, but I don't like the gun, and I'm kind of just lost again, thinking about the bullfrog, thinking about going back to the FFAR. The MAC-10 has been my side companion lately, which is pretty good gun still. But I don't know. I'm just lost, probably like a lot of people that are listening to an amateur hour podcast about Warzone.
Certainly tumbling down the rabbit hole, it seems. I know you have been quite pessimistic, unfairly so, I would say, toward the AK. However, our one time playing together this week, because we're just not fucking lining up here in terms of when we can hop in that helicopter and dive into the zone, but our one evening, Saturday night, I was rocking the AK, and I gotta say, you look at the old kill tallies, you could say what you want about it, but I was gunning a little bit last night.
Yeah, honestly, frankly, I was drunk when we were playing late last night, so if anybody listening to the show plays after having a few too many, it doesn't turn out good. So I was playing like garbage. I was terrible. Wasn't paying attention to your scores, frankly, but that's great. It's all about what works for you. It doesn't work for me. If it works for you, that's okay. But a blanket statement that it's the best gun in the game, I think, is a little a little over the top.
If you want to rewind the tape, everyone out there, those words were not uttered by me. However, speaking of weapons, speaking of quote-unquote best guns in the zone, the meta, where we want to be, what you want to be rifling, there was a big update released this week on May 7th. Went live out of left field, Raven coming out. And, I've been labeled a fanboy, a bootlicker, a fucking turtleneck wearing guy,
a paid employee. Yeah,
paid employee, whatever horrible term you want to use towards me this week, that's fine, you line them up. However, I just gotta say, like, the hits keep on coming in season 3. The fucking horrors and the anguish of season 2 is behind us, because they dropped this update. And your first impressions before we really dive into the meat of it, like, give our listeners the Cowboys conversations.
Of what? What are you talking about?
Of the big fucking weapons tuning update that went live on May 7th.
Oh, that. Yeah, dude, you know that I don't know what happened. I need you to explain this to me. That's what this show is for. I need the update as well. I need you to explain to me what happened, because I'm still, learning myself. Please guide me like a child. Talk to me like I'm 5.
All right, well, I will educate your ass like you're in first grade, because that's pretty accurate in terms of Warzone knowledge. But the first up on the agenda in terms of what went live was the fan favorite not fan favorite, but things people were really fucking pissed about was the Street Sweeper shotgun was showing up everywhere early in the game.
Yep.
So they have since taken that out of ground loot, no longer there, replaced it with this Hauer 77 shotgun. What are your thoughts on this change?
Well, Hauer 77 sucks. It's a terrible gun. So they've definitely downgraded that. The Street Sweeper was a little too nutty off the top. Like I was getting kills with that thing in a close range battle situation. If you and other teams are dropping in the same spot, you happen to find a Street Sweeper, you're inside, and if you have a run-in with someone, they're done. You know, it's over. That gun just destroys. It has an extremely long reload time, which I found out the hard way a few too many times, but the Street Sweeper was out of control. It really took like the skill out of it. You just fucking hold the shoot button and it just delivers very powerful short range bursts of metal, baby. So that was smart, I think. The Hauer 77, I feel like it's such an old shitty gun. This used to be a pretty popular ground loot gun, I feel like, too, when I first started playing the Hauer 77, that shotgun. And it's just shitty, you know. I guess that's how I would put it. What do you think?
Well, I think in it of itself, the Street Sweeper is not, I would say, broken or unbalanced, which is, you know, credit to the balancing of it, because as you said, the reload time, I think, really kind of is what turns players off to it. But I agree. I think having access to a full auto shotgun, as you said, off the rip, like it's not good. It's not conducive to, you know, the Warzone we want to enjoy. But this is where the patch notes get interesting, all right? Typically, they'll just send the facts like, hey, we fucking did X, Y, and Z. Figure the rest out yourself. Well, now they're giving us like a glimpse inside the mind of a Raven software here. So they add this little note: the Street Sweeper's wide availability fostered a dynamic where passive play was incentivized and rewarded. We do not think this type of play is particularly compelling for either party when players do not have the necessary tools in the early game to effectively counter it. So that now they're providing like a fucking reasoning behind this, which, again, refreshing as hell. I'm on the same fucking page with them, baby. Get these little camping bitches off the rip out of there. You know what I'm saying? You got to go exploring for that loot early on.
Yeah, I mean, not surprised you're on the same page with them, on the same fucking sentence line with them. But yes, but I do like this. Yeah, I do. They must have hired a new copywriter or something, because they're giving these detailed explanations, which I will give them kudos for. I like that they're being very transparent about that. One of the bright things that I am enjoying about the game is their patch notes. And I totally agree with that ideology. Totally agree with it. Yeah. The Street Sweeper, it's a good gun to find right off the bat if you're having an initial confrontation with one person. But after that first confrontation, it's kind of like, you're really going to roll with that? You're really going to reload that every time? It takes like 60 seconds to reload that thing. It's out of control. You could get a fucking king contract and reload your gun, and then the king will be up by the time that thing's fucking reloading.
I like it. All right. Well, you ever need to burn through a king contract, sounds like you can get that and reload, and you should be good to go. But so that was like the appetizer with these patch notes, you know, serving it up. But the real entree was with this new round of weapons tuning. So we had that massive round going live, 1-2 weeks ago. Now we get a whole nother one here, which they had alluded to. And they preface this fucking thing with a note that said, we want to preface the following weapon changes by providing you with some insight into our thought process.
What?
They said there are millions of you, and when we reduce the effectiveness of a weapon, we are bound to make a change to someone's favorite gun. As players of this game ourselves, it pains us just as much. However, we remain torn. We are the custodians of this game. We make it for you. In the same light, we are charged with maintaining the health and integrity of the game. In some instances, this requires us to reduce the effectiveness of some universally cherished weapons. When we make a change like this, our intent is the promotion of diversity. We believe what makes a game truly engaging is choice. When we diminish that choice, we take away the agency to play the game your way. This can happen when a weapon becomes so effective that simply not utilizing it puts you at a disadvantage.
It's crazy that they use such like definitive, strong language about them basically saying there is no meta. We want all the guns to be viable. when this game has been for the last 8 months defined by the meta. You know what I'm saying? It's really interesting that this is now they're explicitly stating all of this with no doubt. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's good. I think they should be heading in that direction, and I think they are definitely taking a step that way. It's just really fascinating, you know?
Well, we've spent the last year plus literally arguing these same points. Some of the same fucking words coming up. Diversity, putting us at a disadvantage for not using the weapon, using it out of basically being obligated to. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not fanboying out, but I just think it's fucking pretty rad. And I think it's now definitive that they do listen to the podcast, take influence from these thought leaders here who are we've been laying it out there. The blueprint to success for this game. We said, you got to have the diversity, you got to have the balance, you got to have a gun that has its place. And this is exactly what we're fucking getting, baby.
Yeah, I mean, one of our missions starting this podcast was to successfully put a mole into Raven and infiltrate into the development center and maybe, change the way in which the game was played to help amateurs. And it really seems like it's going that way. What do you think?
I am damn near unlocked the passwords, hacking into the mainframe here, baby. Gonna go live with the takeover of Raven Studios and the Warzone universe from the amateurs. But until that happens, there was one final little chunk of paragraph here. They said, at the end of all that big spiel, they said, with that being said, we feel we are close to a, quote, balance homeostasis where most options are at the very least viable, which leaves us to address time to kill. The following balance changes are a part of our ongoing efforts to raise time to kill, or at least the individual skill required to reach extreme TTKs. We ask that you consider these changes not as targeted attacks, but rather as part of our larger initiative to raise the skill ceiling. We literally 2 weeks ago were like, the TTK is way too fast, they need to slow it down. Sounds like they're working on it. Then as the patch notes, they released all the guns that they're tweaking, and they gave like a fucking red arrow down if it was being nerfed, a green arrow up if it was being buffed, and then like the little tilde symbol if it was being nerfed and buffed at the same time.
Gotta love it. God, are you just in heaven right now? Are you just loving this? I mean, I know that they're paying you, but like, I think before you were on the payroll, you were preaching for this. This is the changes that you wanted to see. You wanted that balanced Warzone, and now it seems to be all efforts ahead to make that happen. Paycheck aside, how are you feeling?
I mean, other than my co-host, best buddy in the Warzone and guy I was on the same page with now, just like continually shitting on me these last 3 weeks because he's just adopted this like fucking contrarian position where if I go high, he's going fucking low. So other than that, yes, this is a fucking dream come true. Like, I couldn't have said these things more eloquently than they've put them. I feel like they've pulled the lid off what's going on behind the scenes, and I really like what's inside of that jar, baby. I'm eating fistfuls of that in the Warzone. But in terms of those big changes they made, I'll just run through the basics. The 5 guns that were really affected here were the AMAX, the FARA 83, the Street Sweeper, the Bullfrog, and the PPSH. Now, the AMAX was nerfed extremely minimally, so it sounds like it takes maybe 1 or 2 more rounds to kill someone, and the issue is they thought it was a little bit too good at the far distances. So that got a nerf. How you feeling about that?
So let's pause. Yeah, let's talk about that because the AMAX undoubtedly, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but from my perspective, undoubtedly the number one AR out there. AMAX is king right now, right?
I believe since its inception, it has remained until this patch. It was the highest damage output AR in the game. Yes.
It's the strongest gun in that class, like no question. And it's also probably the meta at a long range, right? I mean, AMAX is killing right now. So then they talk about, I'm surprised that they didn't nerf it more, frankly, because we're talking about like them trying to bring balance to the game. Like obviously the AMAX is the number one on the list and they give it a very minimal nerf. I expected more, frankly. But I mean, it's good that it happened. It's just, I expected more. What do you think about the AMAX?
Well, I mean, I think it goes to what they said. They're not trying to create new metas and rotate guns in and out. It's more like they want every gun to have its place. So they want the AMAX to still be a viable weapon. And they say in the notes, its fastest maximum damage time to kill remains intact, which is, I think, like 20 to 30 meters or something like that. But they mentioned, there's trade-offs. As we said, there's high recoil, and the largest magazine you can get on the AMAX is 45. So
Okay.
still very viable, but it's no longer like, oh, what gun should I run? Oh, you're not running the AMAX? You're a fucking idiot, dude. Are you on, you listen to that Amateur Hour podcast or something? We're the Sweat Lords, You ever get that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess, and I guess because I haven't really leveled the AMAX, so it's not something in my, my vision. I'm not using it often. But 45 rounds, does it have a very quick fire rate? Is it burning through that?
No, it's similar to the AK. It's kind of like a da, but each shot's bouncing around.
Oh, okay, so it's a chugger.
Yeah, and so if you're missing those shots, you're gonna have some trouble there. So still viable, but no longer the god tier. I think that helps us snipers out a little bit because that thing was pretty insane at range.
Yeah. Taking
heads off. But the next gun, again, the Street Sweeper, they nerfed that slightly. They made the spread of the pellets a little bit wider, and the recoil was increased, and the ADS time was reduced. So that's been nerfed a bit. Then the your beloved Farah 83. Which was, as we said, a streamer favorite. It was incredibly mobile, I think was why a lot of players were using that. But since then, they have reduced the headshot multiplier, and the base ADS movement speed was also nerfed. So again, it was kind of minimal, but they're trying to bring, I think the real message from all of this is they're trying to bring the SMGs back into the fold.
Yeah. I really like that. I feel like SMGs, ever since the FFAR kind of took over, I feel like SMGs have been put in the back of the sack.
100%.
And that, I don't like that. I like SMGs. SMGs are so dope. They have such a huge role. I hope that they get better. And now I'm curious, what I want to roll an SMG. I do. I like having an SMG in my repertoire, and I'm trying to figure out what that's going to be. Maybe it's the Bullfrog, which I'm assuming we're going to talk about next.
Yes, we are. The next adjustment, which as we said, it was like a buff and a nerf together. But the maximum damage was decreased. The maximum damage range was increased. So lower output, but a little bit farther range. The base movement speed was increased, but only by 1%. And the sprint out speed was increased. So their explanation was the Bullfrog's exceptional headshot multiplier, which I did not know about. So if you're out there, you can hit some headshots. Certainly not us, but you might want to consider the Bullfrog.
Interesting.
But they said it doesn't affect that multiplier. It just diminishes the output of damage. So it reduces the Bullfrog's ability to achieve extreme TTKs while not removing it entirely. So it sounds like if you can hit headshots, the Bullfrog might be top of the line. But as we said, we kind of like the Bullfrog because we could spray like motherfuckers. But either way, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but it's interesting that they burfed it. They buffed it and nerfed it.
Burfed it.
They burfed it. And I'm thinking maybe I think I leveled up my Bullfrog a while back when it first came out. I think the Bullfrog is just a cool name for a weapon. And I just like, the idea of running with a Bullfrog,
Certainly you do. Well, maybe you need to hop on over to that lily pad. But then the next up, final gun adjustment was the PPSH, introduced fresh in Season 3 and quickly discovered to be dog shit. And apparently because what they did was open bolt delay was decreased by 80%. Now, I am no ammunition weapons. I don't even know how to fucking take a remote control apart. So I don't really even know what a open bolt delay is, but it sounds like now the PPSH is somewhat usable, and I've certainly seen the ground loot one is way more effective since these patch.
Wait, so what was the buff to it and what happened with it? I'm confused.
The open bolt delay, which is, I believe, the time it takes for maybe the bolt to slide back as you're firing. Again, I don't know these things. If you're listening, I know there's listeners that are fucking way more knowledgeable at this shit. Send us an email. We'll issue a correction. But they decreased that delay by 80%. So I think the fire rate's just faster or some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe it's like an ADS thing too, because I know with some of those weapons, you pick them up, you have to open it. It takes a second for you to it pulls down something. Oh, yeah. First pull it up and they're type of shit. Yeah, it's and then it's ready to go. Maybe, but I thought that was a Farah thing. Maybe it also is with the little PP, but interesting. Yeah, I mean, I never really liked that gun, but maybe I give it a try. I remember there was so much buzz about it when Season 3 first started. It was like, oh, it's going to be the new thing. And then it sucked. And now maybe they're trying to make it better again, it sounds like. Yeah, they're trying to get it back in the PPs in people's hands. But you hear those updates, you're like, okay, well, I still don't know how SMGs are going to beat the fucking ARs. Well, that's where these final changes come in, which weren't nerfs to guns, but they nerfed the shit out of several attachments for Cold War ARs. Most notably the stocks, where the movement speed was decreased in some, ADS firing speed was decreased by 75% for the Raider/KGB skeletal stock. So they nerfed all these mobility attachments that were allowing people to basically build ARs that essentially functioned as higher damage output SMGs. So again, all of an effort to bring SMGs into the fold. You're starting to see people move way away from the FFAR, from the FARA, get back to that MP5 action, the MAC-10. But that was the big news, man. How you feeling going into it now?
I mean, we kind of have been talking about this, but I think it's good for the game. It's going to be a little more balanced, which is good. Good to see the AMAX getting a nerf, even if it's slight, it helps. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I still like the FFAR. I still like the MAC-10, and I'm wondering if it's not just my comfortability with those guns that has me going back to them, or if now that there is such a balance that, maybe it's just that those style of gameplay and what those guns are, providing, like with mobility and fire rate, like maybe it's all becoming balanced. And those are the things that I cherish in the attributes of my weapons. And maybe it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe the balance is starting to, I don't want to chase metas. I think I just want to play with something that I love and let it be, like I'm tired of chasing. I feel like I was on a rampage the last couple of weeks. It was the FARA, it was the AK, it was like there was something else, and I was like trying to level them, and I was putting so much time in, and I just want to relax with the weapon, maybe like just honeymoon for a little bit with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I get you. If like the last few months have been like the dating fucking
speed dating, dude. We're speed dating these damn weapons.
Speed dating thing, and you've just been shoved in these meeting new people. Just when you get the hang of meeting someone, they're blowing the fucking whistle. You got someone else coming and taking a seat with you. Well, guess what? I think that time's over. Now it's like the open cocktail hour. You can mosey on, get yourself a little booth, find someone you're comfortable with, really get to know them. And they won't be yanked away from you, hopefully, aggressively. But I think the big question that people have been asking is like, okay, well, they've been doing all this shit to the fucking Cold War guns. What about the Modern Warfare guns? The car is still boss there. As we said, the AMAX just barely touched, but they final note on the patch notes were, we would like to address concerns that we're only going to be making changes to Cold War weapons. And they said, in the future, we fully intend on taking a closer look at some of the Modern Warfare weapons that have been struggling. So I know there's like people online that are like diehards about the Scar and then like the Odin and all these weird fan favorites. I guess maybe they're going to be getting addressed, but what do you think about this little final note?
I know you love it. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it.
Do you think now the Car 90, I mean, they mentioned bringing, it sounds like these are mostly buffs, but I'm wondering if they're going to give a nerf to the car, because it really feels like for those who snipe, like 80% of players are running the Car 98.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the meta sniper for sure. I think that it would be in their best interest if they really, and this hurts me to say because I love the car, and I feel like that's my greatest strength is using the car these days, because I can hit a headshot here and there, but if they nerfed the car, I think that it would actually provide more balance in the game.
Wow.
If they made if they limited its damage rate or its damage profile at like certain distances, if they nerfed it a little bit, I think the balance would become, it would be a little more balanced, even though I love the car. Because the thing is if you get someone that's just a savage with a car, it changes the whole dynamic. It can be a force to be reckoned with more so than somebody with like, say, an SMG or an AR. You know what I mean? Like the sniper can really change someone's ability to like control fucking the game, baby. You know what I mean?
I think the car's in a perfect spot. If anything, I think maybe buff some of the other snipers to give them their own kind of edge. As we've said, maybe have one that has a huge ammo capacity so you don't have to reload, and when you do, it's a quick reload. Or like again, what if there's a fucking wild card out there with these Modern Warfare buffs and they like buff the shit out of the Dragunov, you know? And it's like people start running. Could you imagine if you get killed by a Dragunov in this game? That would be like maybe the best death I've ever had if that happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I would like to see that though, because the car is great for several hundred meters. You know, like you're basically 250 meter and less. It's not like a crazy long range sniper. It's a marksman's rifle. I think that it would be cool if they made snipers, like actual snipers that were at distance. Because there's times when I'm using the car and I see someone like 400 or 500 meters away. You know, I'm trying to take that shot and I'm like, if it hits them, you know, it's taking one plate of damage. It's not meant for that kind of distance. But it would be really cool if there was a sniper that was for distance, that sniping was like really intended for, you know, long distance single shots that were fucking like heavy duty shit where like one shot downs them. But it worked from say like, but it was really slow. ADS was horrible. But once you're set up as a sniper, I would like to see something like that. And then if they nerfed the car for that, I think that would be better for gameplay.
Wow, well, I got some good news for you because there's these two guns out there. One's called the HDR and one's called the AX50, baby. Those, if you kit them up max damage, max range, you get very, very, very little bullet drop. You can hit shots from 300, sometimes 500 meters. So, I mean, I think that would be an interesting gun for you to try here if you're looking for a little bit more stability but a little deeper range. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I had I used to use the AX50 a little bit. I believe I had that leveled up. I'll have to go take a look in my rotation and see where I'm at with that. But I might, yeah, maybe I'll throw that around.
All right. Well, the proof to me of all this is in the pudding because since this update has gone live, I've played with a good assortment of my buddies and players, and I'm like, what are you running? Every single person I'm playing with is running some sort of different combination of weapons, which I think is amazing. And, you know, I'm still working on what I'm doing too. I've been playing around with this AK quite a bit. I think I finally got it dialed in where it's going to fit in my arsenal, but it's refreshing. I fucking love it. Inject this shit into my veins.
I love it when you're excited, baby. It makes me happy.
Well, we've spent these, early part of the podcast here going high, praising the game. However, there still are certainly, of course, some shortcomings with what's going on. And I think most notably is becoming incredibly apparent is it's really fucking hard. The lighting is fucked up in this Verdansk 84, especially indoors. Like, are you feeling that? Are we on the same page with that?
Oh, yeah, dude. The contrast is... man, how do you explain it? Like, there's certain angles. If you are, say... like in stadium or maybe let's say TV station or what was TV station. I don't even know if it's still called TV station. If you're in that area and say you were to look out towards the salt mines or the old quarry and you're looking towards where the sun is, it is so difficult to see fucking anything if you look towards the sun. You know what I'm saying? Like the contrast is remarkable and it's gotten worse. The lighting is really, really bad. And yeah, there's, the rose skin was a nightmare in its own ways for so long, but I think that as they nerfed the rose skin, and now we're on this new map, if you just have a dark outfit in certain spots, you're essentially going back to how the rose skin used to work. Like, there are places that you just can't see people. And even in the gulag, it's like that, actually. There's dark spots where it's like, I can't fucking see this guy. Where the fuck did that come from? You know what I mean? It's like, it's turning into this just like, wait, what? What just happened? Where was that? You know what I mean?
I mean, let's back it up, though, to what you said. Like, we were promised that they were nerfing the rose skin, and they said they did, but I never really took a deep dive into it. I trusted them, and now that I've thought about that, I'm like, the rose skin's fucking virtually unchanged. And, one of the players we admire, we watched Dr. Disrespect, the old doc out there. He had an actually pretty frightening little video clip compilation he shared where he literally backed away something like 20 meters from a rose skin and she virtually disappeared. Like, the game rendered her ass out of that thing.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I was actually watching that stream. It was in the gulag, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I saw that live actually where he was looking down the hallway of the gulag. He wasn't in the actual goo at the time. He was like in the waiting zone up to stop or whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, he was a certain distance, and he's like, Champs, can you believe this? There's actually somebody standing in front of me. And I'm watching the screen. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? You're looking at there's no one standing in front of you. And then he just slowly moves forward like 10 meters. And this person, the rose, it was like an AFK rose skin, someone just standing there. And then they slowly it cross dissolved them in. And then he backed back out, and then they turned to blackness again, and you couldn't see him. And it was just like, holy shit. Like, talk about an advantage. Like, I have been killed by that person at that distance probably hundreds of times and had no idea they were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest glaring, no pun intended, issue with the game right now. Doc theorizes it's the color palette. I heard you talking about contrast. Clearly, it's something going on, with the color spectrum and all that. So they need to iron that out. I'd say if you're going to err on one side or the other, like err towards the side where the players pop out, where they're incredibly easy to notice. Because so much of this game is, the entire game to me is built around figuring out where the enemy is. Like, that's how you fucking engage. You can't engage a fucking ghost out there. You need to see someone. And like you said, especially in this new gulag, there's just so many instances where I just cannot fucking see people.
Yeah, I don't know what's more frustrating, losing a gunfight that you thought you should have won, that you got the shots off first, or, the idea of getting killed by somebody that's not standing anywhere near you, or you can't see if they're standing near you. It's really frustrating. I'm not sure what they do. What do they change the color palette? What do they change, like, the contrast? Do they put the sun in a different part of the sky? Like, I don't know. Again, I'm no developer. I'm no gameplay expert. I don't know how, computers work, but I would imagine that it's not easy to change that entirely across the map in the entire game overnight. But yeah, I don't imagine that's easy to make that change. So unfortunately, I don't see this changing for a while because it's just bad enough to where it's easy to complain about and get pissed off about, and it affects your gameplay. But I don't think it's bad enough to where there's going to be like an uprising,
Yeah, and they've placated a lot of us, including me, with these weapons changing. I assume, or I hope, that this is what they're now working on to hopefully resolve. But, one thing we didn't talk about last week that we wanted to dive into, speaking of the gulag, is since it's been introduced, have you now developed like a strategy? What do you do when you go into the new gulag?
Literally zero strategy. I've tried different methods, dying very often. And the only one that seems to work for me, but it doesn't work for me all that much, and you know what I mean, is hopping up quickly to the second layer. And if I can get up there quick, my mentality is if somebody comes that way, if I beat them there, I'm going to kill them in that area. Hopefully I can get my gun and I can shoot them before if I'm racing there. And then at that point, if they don't come there, I'll backtrack and kind of try to get an overhead view. It doesn't work out that often. Typically, I'm dying in the gulag. Probably, honestly, 9 out of 10 times that I go straight towards like the covered tank in the middle, I'm dying. I rarely win those gunfights. This has been a very frustrating gulag for me. How has it been for you?
At one point I was like kind of a gulag hog. I'd get in there, I'd have my confidence, like we said, we'd have a strategy, we'd have a go-to thing. I'd feel like I wouldn't feel frightened. Now I drop into that thing and that timer's ticking down for me to start, and I'm like, fucking here we go, just hold my breath. However, in terms of a strategy, it's not much, but one thing that I've been having some success with is as soon as it starts, doesn't matter which side you're on, I run to, you described it as like a little elbow there in the middle of the map. I run on the inner part of that. There's like a little cinder block wall that kind of shields you. And what I'll do is I'll usually kind of wait and listen, because you can kind of hear if they're going to be taking the upper route and go around you, or if they're going to swing around to that fucking tank. And then from there, you can either get behind them or you kind of throw them off. They don't expect you that. Because I was trying your strategy going up to that second level, but I was getting fucking creamed, because it seems like the big strategy for most players is to get behind that tank, just like you talked about.
Yeah, that's where I typically get killed by someone, is behind that tank. I've also had people, if you're, God, I don't even know how you would describe what side of the gulag is what, but there's one side where you can like kind of hop up by the cinder block wall, and it kind of gives you just an elevated point of view to where you can kind of see ahead if it's moving on the other side of the cinder block wall. Definitely been killed by people doing that before. I'm not sure what the best tactic is. Is it to be stealth and move around and try to figure out where your opponent is? Or is it just going guns blazing? Probably stealth. Guns blazing usually gets me killed pretty quick in the gulag.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not surprised to hear it out there, listeners, but we don't have the answer to this one. So if you got something that's been working for you.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, not us, unfortunately.
Reach out, share it with us. We're eager to hear it. Yeah, my strategy so far has been the less is more. Let the other players come to you. But again, my batting average, very low. But yeah, I wanted to touch on that. And then the other news that I forgot to discuss was early on in the week, they released this new burst rifle, the Carve 2. And initially people were like, oh, it's fucking broken. And that brings me to a point here first. Like, if you see videos online of people saying a gun is broken and you notice they're doing it in Plunder, that doesn't fucking matter. People have 2 plates in Plunder. Everything feels stronger in that shit. So that's not how you judge it, first off. But secondly, once people took a deeper dive into this Carve, they found like, hey, it's pretty balanced. It's not that great, but it's fun. If you're good at burst rifles, then it's good for you. I won't be unlocking it anytime soon, so I probably won't touch it, but it's out there, dude.
Yeah, I'm not a big burst guy myself either. Typically, burst throws me off because I'm expecting a full spray load, but it's just like a burst and it always fucks me up. So I don't like burst weapons, so I won't be going down this route. But yeah, more power to you if you like it. If, I'm tired, man. I'm tired of chasing metas, tired of chasing new guns. Like, I just want to find my soulmate.
Well, if you found your soulmate earlier and it was the AUG or the M16, might want to try this one out. But it is live now. You can see the builds, recommended shit, all that's online. But speaking of what could be coming to the Warzone, kind of out of left field this week, some weird shit where Call of Duty official account has been teasing Rambo. Yes, John Rambo, the 80s war hero film franchise. First, it was somebody shared, like, you can tweet at Raven your gamer tag and they'll send you like a Warzone report of your performance. And then somehow there was a floating around one of a player named John Rambo, and their KD was listed as infinite. And so that was circulating and people were like, that's weird. And then the Call of Duty Twitter account unfollowed everyone except for people that had the last name Troutman. Or Trotman, Trautman, and people were like, what's this about? Quickly Googled that, realized there's a fucking, like, the Colonel character or whatever in the Rambo movies. His fictional name is Troutman. So it's pretty evident, like, Rambo might be coming as an operator to Warzone. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I'm not surprised because it's a money grab and it's probably smart. I mean, I'm going to probably get annoyed seeing 50 Rambos dropping into Warzone. But I mean, this is something they could have done a long time ago. What I'm afraid of is that, I mean, a Rambo is 80s, right? That's an 80s movie.
Yup.
I really hope that they did not switch back and make no sense of this storyline to go back to the 1984 Verdansk map just so they could introduce 1980s characters that will hopefully sell. You know what I mean?
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that. If they try to tie in, like, the cinematic universe of fucking Rambo into the current, I don't want to use the diarrhea word, but it's like a fest of disgustingness, this narrative right now. If they do that, then they have completely lost me now. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But then the final note is it wasn't just Rambo. Then I think it was Friday. They tweeted some weird shit where it was like a fake website for this Nakatomi duct cleaning service, which is like completely on the nose reference to Die Hard because of the big skyrise that Die Hard takes place in is Nakatomi Plaza, and John McClane's climbing through the fucking vents.
Yeah, pretty spot on.
And literally on the website, it said like yippee-ki-yay shit. So now we might even be getting Rambo and John McClane in the Warzone. Like, what's going on here?
I see where they're coming from, and I guess it makes sense because they'll probably sell a lot of those operator skins, and it's a money grab, and I get it. But at the same time, it's like kind of like weird. Like, I feel like that's a Fortnite thing. Fortnite does this. Fortnite introduces random characters. Like, that's one of the aesthetics that they choose to go with. It's not what Call of Duty Warzone does. So it seems a little out of place to me, but again, maybe it'll be cool. Maybe it'll be cool. Maybe it won't. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Excellent note, though, because that was what we had basically, come to the consensus was, yeah, this is kind of swinging for what Fortnite does. They're all about the promotional skins. You can play as like a fucking Marvel character. You can play as like that rapper Travis Scott, I think, at one point. So maybe Warzone's going down that lane. Now, if I just kind of popped into the Tron mine and talking about this is, early in the episode, we talked about they have completely committed now to balancing weapons. So maybe they're foreseeing like, hey, we're going to be selling less blueprints. How are we going to make our money? And they're like, let's just kind of pivot over to operator skins. I personally all for that change because I don't think, playing with John McClane or Rambo is going to give you a fucking advantage in the game at all.
No.
So I'm fine with them. Go make that shit monetized. Get, bring in Rambo. Get fucking the Terminator in here. Do whatever you want, man. As long as it's not like some stupid ass advantage,
Yeah, I wonder, do you think that, this is going down the rabbit hole, say that Rambo and John McClane come in and they start bringing in anybody else in, like the voice, like, when you get revived or like you come back and it's like, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Or whatever, it has that fucking random voice. I wonder if they'll have Rambo or Bruce Willis's, Stallone and Bruce Willis, will they get their actual voices? Will they be the voices behind, you know what I'm saying? I wonder how deep this will go, because it could be cool.
If I had to bet, I don't think they would have the actual A-list actors doing it. I think it would be, I know those characters have been introduced in other games since then. Like you can play as Rambo, I think, and Terminator in the Mortal Kombat games. So I think there's kind of voiceover artists who can mimic those voices, but we'll see. That would be cool if it was like the real Sly Stallone, like, "You're out of here," whatever. I literally have never seen a fucking Rambo movie, so I couldn't tell you what he says. But we'll keep an eye on that. No official words. However, one thing that was confirmed by Activision this week was that the developer for the next Call of Duty game, which is Call of Duty 2021, tentatively referred to as, is going to be Sledgehammer Games, and it's going to be releasing in fall of 2021. Now, as we've said, we don't have our fingers on the pulse of game development. I can barely tell you how the even structure of game, like what the fuck a developer relates to Activision does. But so far, the reception of this has been really positive. People have been stoked about this. I don't know though, but there's a new Call of Duty coming in fall, baby. So get ready.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder if that'll introduce new guns to Warzone. That's all I care about, baby.
Well, they've already said Warzone's going to keep going. It's going to be a big part of Call of Duty, so we'll certainly be getting that. The theories were that it's going to be a World War II based. However, I think that leak has since been deconfirmed. They found it was just somebody shitposting. So still no word what the actual setting or style of the new Call of Duty will be, but we will be there to report it when we know. As we said, huge week in terms of news and changes. Those are the main news, but there's a little bit of a tidbit the old Tron wanted to drop on those of you out there that are still running the FARA, which I learned this week is as you're building out your FARA and you go to the ammunition list, one of the, I think it's the last magazine listed, is listed as the VDV 50 round fast mag. Well, guess what? That's mislabeled. It's actually 60 rounds. Did you know that?
I did not know that. It is actually I feel like that makes sense. And I've had that thought before and brushed it off, but that's really interesting.
So if you are running the FAR and you want those extra 10 rounds, throw it on there. I don't know if they've fixed that typo since this weapons tuning skin went live, because that I made the note before that, but I wanted to bring you all the attention. And another note is we've been getting a lot of people that are like, hey, I added you as friends. I'd love to join the WA Regiment. Why aren't you inviting me? Why are you guys such egotistical assholes? You just run a fucking podcast and you think you're better than me. But I just wanted to tell you, we're pieces of shit, okay? But it's not our fault with this WA Regiment thing. It is actively a broken thing in Warzone. The regiment invites are currently not working. It's on Raven's Trello board of to-do lists. So hopefully that's going to be resolved soon. When it does, we're going to send a brand new wave of invites out there to everyone who's friended us. But, we are scumbags, but not this big of scumbags.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying here, but some things are out of our control, baby.
That's right. Out of our control. We're trying. And then a final note, I wanted to save it to the end because it's so goddamn heartwarming and touching to me. I journaled about it all last night. I learned when playing with you yesterday, all of a sudden I discovered like, whoa, the 10-inch cowboy has the most badass cowboy operator skin. Like, he looks like the dude from Red Dead Redemption. He's got a fucking bandolier. He's got a cowboy hat. Like, the man and the player are now one and the same. And you tell me that this skin was gifted to you by a fellow fan and listener. Do you want to share about that? Give a shout out there.
Yeah, it came to my attention that they were releasing a cowboy skin, which, I had to have it. I just had to have it. But I wasn't, as I've famously touted before, I've never spent a penny on this game. Definitely working the system to get all the stuff I can out of Warzone for free. And, a friend of the pod, a friend of ours, a listener of the pod that goes by Pole, Pole, just a classic Pole. Pole gifted me the 2,400 COD points, I think they're called, that was needed to purchase the Cowboy Operator skin. And it was just, such a classy move. And it was so nice. And now I have it forever. And I literally will never change it. I'm the fucking cowboy and I got the skin.
If you change it, I will fucking hurt you because, yeah.
Wow.
The kindest gift bestowed upon us. Gotta give a huge thanks out there. I love it. Now I'm hoping maybe they release some sort of like cool robot type dude and I could get my Tron on, because right now I'm back on stupid fucking Rose at this point. I'll gladly go away from her, but I need something Tron themed. So, fingers crossed, if the old Activision folks are out there, you need a new blueprint to float into the world. I might be biting if that thing, you got that on a hook.
Dude, I'm never giving it up. But yes, you should talk to Pole.
All right, well, the 10-inch cowboy in full force in the Warzone. That, though, is going to do it for us this week on the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast. Thank you all so much for dropping in with us. Hell of a week in the Warzone. Hope you're enjoying this weapon diversity as much as we are. Keep subscribing, keep following, keep liking wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll talk to you next week. So until then,
good luck in the gulag.
Good luck in the gulag, and if you got some sort of strategy, send it over, because we need it.